Megalodon Media News. We give you all the news nobody is talking about.
Washington. Despite being the stingiest president so far in more than a century in doling out individual pardons, Joe Biden is making a late run at granting additional clemencies before his term ends on January 20th. So how does a defendant or a prisoner ask the American chief executive for help? Having a relationship with the incumbent president or a close friend is one gambit. Hiring a well-connected lawyer to contact a top White House aide is another strategy. Sometimes politicians or advocacy groups lobby the president directly, as was the case before the lame duck Biden's Monday move to commute the sentences of nearly every inmate on death row. The only person who holds the power is Biden, who set off a firestorm earlier this month when he pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. And with just weeks left in the 82-year-old Democrat's term, legal experts who have been through the process in the past say it can become more haphazard as President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration approaches. There aren't thousands of people who have the political throw weight or the gravitas to get those, said Ty Cobb, a former Justice Department official and later special counsel at the White House during Trump's first term. If you are a heavy hitter lawyer and you get a request from somebody, typically what you need in an applicant is someone connected and wealthy at this late stage of the game because there's not much time left, Cobb added. President Joe Biden pardons the National Thanksgiving Turkey Liberty during a ceremony at the White House on November 20th, 2023 in Washington, D.C. With Jose Rojas, left Vice President of Jenny O Turkey Store, and Steve Lycan, middle chairman of the National Turkey Federation. Pardoning can be done by category of crime or for individual cases. Presidents can grant pardons in several ways, including by proclamation for a category of offense or by signing a pardon warrant for an individual. Biden issued proclamations in October 2022 and December 2023 to pardon people for marijuana possession, even if they hadn't been charged or prosecuted for the offenses yet. In June 2024, Biden also granted pardons to military veterans convicted of offenses based on their sexual orientation from 1951 to 2021. Neil Eggleston, who served as White House counsel during former President Barack Obama's second term but is not part of Biden's review, said clemency for categories of defendants is a policy decision typically driven by advocacy groups rather than individuals trying to rectify their own situations. This was essentially a policy decision, Eggleston said of Biden shortening sentences for people in home detention in the biggest single-day grant of clemencies in history. I suspect that advocates were urging the Department of Justice and the White House to do this. Pardons aren't always to get someone out of prison, but to wipe clean a record from years earlier. Ronald Reagan gave his final pardon to New York Yankees owner George Steinbrenner 2 days before he left office in 1989. Steinbrenner had been convicted of making illegal contributions to President Richard Nixon's 1972 campaign and fined $15,000, but not jailed. Outgoing White House attorney Ty Cobb walks to his car at the White House in Washington on May 17, 2018. Biden has granted fewest individual pardons since 1900, DOJ. Biden is on pace to grant the fewest individual pardons since at least President William McKinley, who served from 1897 until his death by assassination in 1901. According to Justice Department statistics, Biden's 65 individual pardons so far falls below the 74 by President George H.W. Bush granted during his term from 1989 to 1993. President Jimmy Carter set a high watermark for one-term presidents in the last 50 years with 534 individual pardons, plus an unspecified number of Vietnam draft dodgers from 1964 to 1973. Today, President Biden announced that he is commuting the sentences of 37 individuals on federal death row. Those individuals will have their sentences reclassified from execution to life without the possibility of parole. President Biden has dedicated his career to reducing violent crime and ensuring a fair and effective justice system. He believes that America must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level, except in cases of terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder, which is why today's actions apply to all but those cases. When President Biden came into office, his administration imposed a moratorium on federal executions, and his actions today will prevent the next administration from carrying out the execution sentences that would not be handed down under current policy and practice. This historic clemency action builds on the president's record of criminal justice reform. The president has issued more commutations at this point in his presidency than any of his recent predecessors at the same point in their first term. Earlier this month, the president announced clemency for approximately 1,500 Americans, the most ever in a single day, who have shown successful rehabilitation and a commitment to making communities safer. This included sentence commutations for nearly 2,500 individuals who were placed on home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic and who have successfully reintegrated into their families and communities, as well as 39 pardons for individuals who were convicted of nonviolent crimes. President Biden is also the first president ever to issue categorical pardons to individuals convicted of simple use and possession of marijuana, and to former LGBTQI+ service members convicted of private conduct because of their sexual orientation.
Can you hear me now? 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 Can you hear me now?